Swamiji, do we have to become life members to become? Haji, you have to become. Hey Ramachandra, it is something, I am not surprised that I am doing Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I am not surprised because right from the beginning I was fond of all these things in any way. But I am surprised to see that I have students also for Brihadaranyaka. There are students. Hey Rama. This gives me, when we see the students who had no sanskara of Shastram also coming and showing so much of interest, this clarifies one great reality. Any jiva, even in heaven, any jiva even in North Pole, an Eskimo jiva also, is actually in need of understanding the truth. And if you convey to him in his language the truth, he will sit and listen. You can convert anybody into a student. You can convert, you can transform any jiva in God's creation into a student of truth, provided you know his language. Thus, you can convert in the sense you can convert anybody, any thinking individual in God's creation into a Vedanta Vidyarthi. Why? Because you can make it clear, you can make it understood by any person that he is actually in need of this. However sophisticated that jiva may be, however modern that jiva may be, definitely all that he needs is this jnana. This Vedanta is your need. It is not our desire, it is our need, please. When I say there is a lot in it, it is not our desire, it is our need. Desire somehow or other, they overlap with subjectivity. The plurality of desires, the plurality of likes and dislikes overlaps with subjectivity. Whereas the need, one which we say, the need for happiness is not subjective. It is not subjective. Everybody needs it. And it is not difficult to convert a person, to educate a person to shift his attention from his desires to his needs. Understand? It's not difficult to teach a person, to make him shift his attention from his subjective desires to his need. The need is more sacred than subjective desires. They are nothing. People try to build their personalities around their subjective desires, subjective tastes. Their entire personality, they shape it along their personal tastes. Their personal tastes are all subjective, therefore their personality also is subjective. It has no validity, I am telling you. It has no validity. Oh, he likes this kind of food, oh, he likes this kind of company, oh, he likes this kind of music, oh, he likes this kind of place. He is nothing but really all those subjective tastes piled together. Minus those subjective tastes is nothing, there is no personality. And you can teach a person to grow out of his personality in no time and become a humble student of truth. Make him shift his attention from his subjective taste-based personality to his choiceless need. Therefore, when I see so many people coming from certain backgrounds with no sanskara of the Shastra, can be so interested. When I see them, then definitely I feel convinced it is possible. It's possible. Whether the students will continue, how successful they will become in understanding in one life, that is a different matter. But you can initiate the process of reflection. I trust in that. My teaching, the definition of teaching is only this. Help a person initiate the process of reflection. Begin to look at yourself. Begin to look at yourself. How long will it take to understand its fullness? And how successful one may become in understanding it in its fullness in one life? I never think of it. Begin to look at yourself. If Vedanta can make an individual look at himself, that is enough. This is what we are doing. Now, let us begin. Sir, the source of the pot is not the clay ball. In order to make a pot, you have to prepare the clay into balls and keep the balls on the wheel. Then those balls are shaped into a pot. The ballness of the ball gets disrupted, is destroyed. But the clay continues to inhere the pot. So the fundamental substance of the pot is not a clay ball. The fundamental substance of the pot is clay. In the same manner, the fundamental substance of the whole creation is Brahman. This whole thing, I put it very, very briefly in Brahma Sutras. Sometimes, one very beautiful sentence, beautiful statement, sometimes it helps you in many contexts. Some nice. It's a bulldozer statement. And that bulldozer statement is, one creation cannot be the source of another creation. That's a bulldozer statement. One creation cannot be a source of another creation. The source of all creations is different. The source of the creation should not be another creation. One part of creation cannot be the source of the rest of the creation. That's illogical. One part of creation cannot be the source of the rest of the creation. Or one creation cannot be the source of another creation. The source of every creation should not be another creation. What is always existent, what is always present without being a creation, what is always present alone can be the source of all creations. If this is the bulldozing statement, I don't mind using that sentence. This is a very useful, it's like a sutra. It's useful in so many ways. So this particular statement that one creation cannot be the substance of another creation, the source of another creation, or a given part of creation cannot be the source of the rest of the creation, is a very great sentence which is useful in every context, even now here. Clay ball is one creation. When you make clay, shape the clay into a ball, it is a creation. And you put that clay ball on the wheel and it becomes a pot. That is another creation. One creation can replace another creation, but creation cannot replace the substance, the source. Wow. Is it an ordinary thing? If a person understands this, how true it is that one creation can replace another creation, but the creation can't replace the source, the substance, then creation as a whole has not replaced Bhagavan. Just as clay is there all over the pot, Bhagavan is there all over the pot. That Bhagavan is there all over the creation. The source is there all over the creation. So if truth is there all over the creation, like clay is there all over the pot, the truth, the Parameshvara is there all over the creation. If it is there all over the creation, it is there all over my body. If it is there all over my body, it is there all over my senses and thoughts. It is there all over my perceptions. That means the entire creation drips with the substance. This vision, this is not a belief that the pot can't replace the clay, is not a belief. That the pot doesn't replace clay is not a belief, it's a vision. It is understanding, it is amritam. It is amritam, it is understanding. If that is so, then even the whole creation doesn't replace Ishvara. That means what? Parameshvara pervades the universe, my body, my mind, etc. Why should I be afraid? My thoughts disappear unto the Lord and they remanifest in the same truth. I will not be isolated from the truth. Even if I take another janma, to kya ho gaya? Not that one is advising. One should understand the truth in this life. But what I am saying is, uncertainties need not frighten a person in view of the fact that he is ever one with the truth. One's existence is one with the truth. One wakes up in the truth, dreams in the truth, and falls asleep in the truth. The pot is born in clay, stays in clay, goes back into clay. Similarly, the jiva wakes up in the truth, stays in the truth, plays about in the truth, goes through some pleasure and pain in the truth, and resolves unto the truth. I understand the living process, the surviving process is full of uncertainties and unpleasantries. A lot of unpleasant things can happen. But but this vision that our existence is one with the truth can make up for the certain shortcomings in the process of survival. We go through uncertainties, we go through unpleasant things, but it is all recompensed by this vision. that vision that our existence is one with the truth. That is called living the life of Vedanta. That's called a Vedic vision. I don't mind going through some problems, because the most beautiful thing about life is that our existence is inseparable from the truth. The ugly things that happen in life, they're worth being ignored. The beautiful thing about life is, he is a part of our existence. It is our existence. And therefore, this particular statement that, one creation can replace another creation. So when the pot is born, it destroys the clay ball, but not clay. Clear, right? Now, all that I said, a lot of it Bhagavan Bhashyakara says here, because in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is one thing which cannot be doubted whether it is written by Bhashyakara, Adi Shankara or not. There are so many other things one starts wondering, is it written by him or not? But this is something bristles with brilliance. Really great, Brihadaranyaka Bhashya. Sarvam, now you see, next sentence. Sarvam hi karanam. The entire source, any karanam, any source, karyam utpadayat. When the source facilitates a creation, when a creation takes place in a source, purvotpannasya atmakaryasya, the previous creation. When some creation takes place in a source, then that present creation cannot take place unless it replaces the previous creation. Tirodhanam kurvat, resolving it, dissolving it, negating it. Karyantaram utpadayati, facilitates the next creation. The first creation has to replace the previous creation. And the way that Bhashyakara says is, the source doesn't allow the second creation without resolving first creation. Ba, 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 ba. The source doesn't allow the second creation without taking back the first creation. In simple language, creation can replace creation. Same logic, one thought can replace another thought, but the thought cannot replace the thinker, the source. There is only one thing, the irreplaceable. The clue to the truth is, the clue to the source is, what is irreplaceable is the source. In all our experiences, what remains unreplaced is the source. Because what replaces is a creation. What is replaced is a creation. The source doesn't replace creation. The source is also not replaced by the creation. It transcends the replacer-replaced relationship. Swamiji, doesn't the source replace the creation? No, it pervades the creation, doesn't replace the creation. ये क्या बात है? The clay doesn't replace the pot. ये क्या बात है? What replaces is a creation. What is replaced also is another creation. The source neither replaces, the source also doesn't get replaced. The source is too noble to get into this silly thing of replacing and getting replaced. The source is too glorious to take interest in replacing us, elbowing out. The source doesn't elbow anyone out. The source doesn't allow anyone to elbow it out. The source is free from elbows. The source is a silent presence minus elbows. Therefore it doesn't elbow anything out, etc. And therefore, to confirm the truth in day-to-day life, what should you do? Don't elbow others out. And don't also be elbowed out. Don't do anything. Don't do any wrong thing to deserve to be elbowed out. Then you are conforming to the truth. Live and let live. Live and let live conforms to the truth. I like that phrase. Conform to the nature of the truth. In fact, even to see whether a particular thing, how it conforms to the truth, you have to understand the nature of the truth. The truth doesn't replace anything, doesn't get replaced. Therefore, I should not replace anybody. I should not elbow anybody out. Nor should I do anything to deserve to be elbowed out. Because the truth also doesn't elbow anything out. Yes, that is conforming to the truth. Here Bhagavan says, Tirodhanam kurvat karyantaram utpadayati ekasmin karane, in the same source. Yugapad, at the same time. Aneka karya virodhat. It is not correct, it is not logical to conclude. It is not possible for the same source to come up with many creations. Like the clay cannot really, you can't make a pot and a jar and a plate, etc. at the same time. First you make a plate out of, say, clay. Then in order to make a pot out of it, then you have to dissolve the thing. Or an ornament, for instance. You have to melt the previous creation to make another creation. Thus, sir, when you say the pot destroys the clay ball, actually the pot is destroying another creation, not the source. See how much he is spending for that. Yugapad aneka karya virodhat nacha purva karya upamarde. When the previous creation is destroyed, when the previous creation is dissolved, purva karya upamarde karanasya swatma upamardo na bhavati. It doesn't amount to the destruction of the clay, the source. When the clay ball, a given creation is destroyed, it doesn't mean clay is destroyed. It's like the end of a given thought does not mean the end of the thinker. A new thought comes and replaces the old thought. But a new thought cannot come and replace the thinker, the truth. In fact, it is the truth that stands as the thinker. You call it thinker, G. It looks a thinker, otherwise it is. What is looks as a doer of thinking. That is called kartritva. What is looks like the doer. The akarta looks as the doer of thinking. I am doing seeing, I am doing hearing, tasting, touching, smell. I am doing thinking, I am doing remembering, etc., etc. Everybody looks at himself as a doer. What is it that is viewed as a doer? The non-doer means the silent truth. That is called akarta. The subject, you can never feel any activity in yourself unimposed on you by the thought. Minus the thought, can you feel activity? Try to feel activity within your being minus thought. It will be very interesting. Right here you can close your eyes or even keep your eyes open, doesn't matter. The chairs are not very secure. And therefore, don't do any exercise with eyes closed. Otherwise, there is a problem. Therefore, what you should do, keep your eyes open. And see if you can feel any activity independent of thought. Therefore, the struggle felt in one's being is thrown upon the being by thought. It is imposed. It is the thought that imposes activity on the being. Independent of thought, you can't feel struggle. If we can feel struggle independent of thought, then we can define, when we can conclude, struggle is a part of the being. But struggle is never a part of the being, because you can't feel it independent of a thought. In sleep, there is no thought, there is no struggle. There is no thought, there is no struggle, but there is being. There is being without thought. There is being without struggle. Therefore, you can bracket struggle with thought, not with the being. Therefore, live your life to understand your being. Your being is richer than your bank balance, understand? Don't unnecessarily waste time thinking about the material things. Use them to survive, then forget about them. Use air to survive, use fire to survive, use sunlight to survive, use some food to survive. Do roti kha lo, forget. But the real thing that should be reflected on is the truth. Instead of reflecting on the truth, man goes on reflecting on the material things. It becomes the mananam. That is the shravanam. That is the mananam. And that is the nididhyasanam. And therefore, please understand, here Bhagavan says, when the present thought replaces the old thought, all right, new thought can replace the old thought, but not the thinker, because thinker is none other than the truth. Do you know why man fails to understand the truth? This is a very important point. He always thinks truth is beyond him. There is a convention. There is an age-old belief that truth has to be beyond. We make it, we take it for granted that the truth should be beyond. And beyond means beyond my being also. The moment there is no difference, understand? There is no difference between the belief that the truth is far away and the truth is beyond. Both deny you the vision. The truth is neither far away nor beyond. It is unlike everything but not beyond everything. It is unlike thought. It is not beyond thought. It is there as the very source of thought. It is there in every perception, though unlike perception, it is there in every perception. It is unlike every form, but it is there in every form. And therefore here he says, naja purvakaryopamarde karanasya swatma upamardo bhavati. Just because the new creation replaces the old creation doesn't mean it can replace the source. Meaning thereby when the pot is born, it can replace clay ball all right, but not clay. Tasmat, now he is concluding this thought. Tasmat, therefore, Pindadi upamarde, when the clay ball is destroyed, Karyotpatti darshana, Karyotpatti darshana mahetuhu pragutpattehe karana sattve. It should be translated like this. Therefore, citing the destruction of the clay ball to prove the destruction of the source is illogical. Hey Purvapakshi, citing the destruction of the clay ball, citing the destruction of the clay ball to prove the destruction of the source is illogical, is not the hetu. Because destruction of the clay ball doesn't amount to the destruction of the clay. Swamiji, let us go beyond clay. Okay, ji. Because we are stuck with this clay ball pot. Thoda aage to chalo. Now Bhagavan says the next paragraph. Now the Shunyavadi begins for a change. Pindadi vetirekena mridadehe asatvad ayuktamiti chet. Now the Shunyavadi comes up with another argument. He says, sir, you cannot come across clay independent of pot and clay ball, etc. It has no independent existence. Pindadi vyatirekena means independent of, as other than pinda, as separate from pinda, as separate from clay, as separate from clay ball, as separate from clay ball, as separate from pot, as separate from the creation, the source, as separate from the creation. Mridadehe asatvat, the source doesn't stand. And therefore, if it cannot exist really separate from the creation, that means the creation has replaced the source. Why can't we think like this? You have to be very subtle, Jinnah. We don't see clay standing separate from the pot. That means the clay has been replaced by the pot. Supposing even after making the pot, if the clay can stand separate, then we can say the pot has not replaced the clay. But then really, previously there was a clay and now there is only pot, there is no clay. That means the creation seems to have replaced the source. क्या हो गया? And therefore, iti chet pindadi purva karya upamarde, pindadi purva karya upamarde mridadi karanam na upamridyate घटादि कार्यांतरेपि अनुवर्तते इत्येतत् अयुक्तम. Up to that is all शून्यवादी. You have to आराम से समझना है इसको बहुत आनंद आए अगर if you start following it. It's like a movie. If you start following it, my God, even if somebody, puts a speaker and blares into your ear, you don't notice. Somebody shouts into your ear, you don't notice. Because you are absorbed in the movie. Haji. Immediately here will follow. The Purvapakshi says, Shunyavadi says, sir, you said, the pot doesn't, when the clay ball is destroyed, the source is not destroyed because the same source has become useful to make a pot and therefore the source is not destroyed. This is the stand you have taken. But I am saying, when there is a clay ball, outside the clay ball, there is no clay. Outside the pot, there is no clay. The clay has already become the pot. If it has already become the clay ball, if it has already become the pot, that means the clay has ceased to exist. Clay has ceased to exist. Clay has taken the shape of a pot. Only pot is, there is no clay. Why can't we think like this? Why can't we think like this? Pinda ghatad vyatirekena, separate from the clay ball, separate from the pot. Mridadi karanasya, the source called clay, the form of clay as clay doesn't exist. The identity of clay as clay doesn't exist. The identity of the clay as clay is destroyed. And in that clay, a new identity is created called the pot. The pot has already replaced the identity of the clay. Meaning what? The pot has replaced in a way clay. In that manner, this whole universe, whatever the source, it has already replaced the source. That means it has no source now. That's what is important. A बहुत जड़ा बहुत बड़ा important है. Shunyavadi is less interested in saying that it has replaced its source, but he is more interested in saying this universe has no source. There is no source. If this has no source, means it is dangling in emptiness. If it is dangling in emptiness, it is shunya. Yes. Karanasya anupalambhaditi chet. We don't, upalambha means perception, anupalambha means non-perception. We don't see clay standing apart from pot. We don't see clay staying separate from the clay ball. When we have already used the clay to make a ball out of it, to make a pot out of it, that means the clay has lost its clay identity. The clay has assumed, it has transformed into a ball identity, it has transformed into a pot identity. In other words, there is nothing wrong in saying that the clay ball has replaced the clay and the pot has replaced clay. Similarly, this universe has replaced its source. That means right now it has no source. That means where does it exist? In emptiness. Meaning what? It is all shunya. Shunyavadi says. And people they think Buddhism is something great. And they go and all hear some funny music without any swaram. But even that is much better. It is very difficult even to imitate. You can imitate swaram, but base swaram, how would you imitate it? Even for imitation, there must be some order. Not able to follow? Yes. Indians are, sorry to say, forgive me, Indians are stupid. I'm telling you. They have the best wealth. They don't know how to own it. They have always frittered away their wealth. I don't know. God has given them the best wealth. But they don't really make the best of it. Whereas the other countries, you give them small little thing, even a spring of water, my God, how they protect and own it and use it. Small spring of water. They don't mind waging a war for that spring. Amara to Atiti Devo Bhava. If a guest comes, just take the whole hill. Pura Himachal le lo, Pura Madras le lo, Pura Bihar le lo. पिताजी का प्रॉपर्टी बड़ा है. I'll tell you a joke. And don't tell this outside the class. Otherwise they will come and kill me. You will be denied of the class. God created the world. ठीक है? Americans went to God. What is it that you have given the best thing to India? You have given us nothing. England went, Germany, all countries went to God and complained. It is unfair. You have given everything the best to India. You have given them Himalaya, you have given them Ganga, Yamuna, you have given them the best rivers, and more than that, you have given them ocean around, you have given them the best hills, and you have given them Veda. You have given them spirituality. You have given them everything. Whereas we have nothing. You have given us nothing. Then Bhagavan said, that's true. You must understand one thing. I have given them the best things. But you must understand, I have given them also Indian government. You understand? Doesn't work. That is why these are Shunyavad. Vedic culture is pointing out the fullness of your being. Buddhism wants to convince you of the emptiness of your being. Nairatmyavada. Okay, ji. This is Shunyavadi now, the Vedanta says, Na mridadi karananam ghata jutpattau pindadi nivrittau anuvritti darshana. First two lines mean. So, I would like to repeat the same thing. When the pinda is destroyed, mridadi karananam ghatadi utpattau, when the clay is converted into a pot, pindadi nivrittam, when the pot is made, what it disappears is the clay ball, but there is continuity of clay. Continuity of clay. Very beautiful way of telling this, very comprehensive. Now I would like to explain. It is true that the clay has become the pot. The clay looks the pot. It is true that the clay can be converted to a clay ball, and the clay ball can be destroyed and can be converted into a clay pot. It is true. Okay. But in and through the creation, every creation has a beginning and an end. The clay ball can begin and end. Pot also can begin and end. But in and through the beginning and end of every creation, the clay has continuity. This is called continuity. You know, we don't take a stand that the clay has not become the ball. The clay becomes the clay ball. The clay itself becomes the clay pot. But the clay nest doesn't die. The clay nest has continuity in and through the beginning and end of the clay ball, and in and through the beginning and end of the clay pot. I am not saying that the clay doesn't become the ball and the clay doesn't become the pot. But even when it becomes the clay ball and clay pot, it doesn't lose its identity as a clay. He doesn't bring in the language, but I am going to supply it. This is what is called Maya Srishti. Hey Shunyavadi, learn to think in terms of Maya Srishti. Whereas, this is the problem, the sanskara of every layman, in God's creation is to think of creation through transformation. It's a very, very important, very subtle thing. Whenever we think of creation, we think of some modification. Something has happened. A plant dies to become a tree. Meaning a plant, the identity of a plant as a plant has to die to become a tree. The infancy of the body has to die to become an adult. The infancy of the body has to die to become a teenager. The teenager's state has to become dead to become the middle age, in this manner. So generally every lay person, we all think universally that this what we call creation is always through renouncing the previous and assuming the next form. That means something happens. Bhagavan says, yes, creations go on changing, but the basic matter remains. Like a plant becomes a tree, but the basic matter remains the same. That is what is called parinami nityam. Matter is there. The five elements remain. The infant becomes a teenager, the teenager becomes an adolescent, and the middle-aged and old, etc. But then really ultimately that matter remains, that upadana. Thus it's true that the clay is converted into a clay ball. It's true that the clay is converted into a clay pot. But then the clay doesn't lose its identity. Any source that assumes a form without losing its own identity is called Maya Srishti. If you can understand this, then you understand. In this, the entire Bhagavan ka Srishti is Maya Srishti. Swamiji, I am a little allergic to this word Maya. Even if you are allergic to that Maya, what Shastra says, even that allergy is Maya Srishti. Why should you be allergic to a reality? Understand? Be allergic to a bluff. That's useful. Be allergic to a lie. Be allergic to something wrong. Don't be allergic to reality. Some people say, no, I am allergic to this God-man, this Swamis and all that. I am allergic. I asked somebody, said, I am allergic to. What is it? When you see them, you also feel like becoming a sannyasi? Is that kind of allergy? What is this allergy? See, be allergic to the wrong. Don't be. It's a reality. Maya Srishti is a reality. This world is Maya. Whether you like it or not, it is Maya. Because it has not replaced, it has not destroyed the source. The source, the Bhagavan, retains his identity as it is and looks the universe. Yes. Thus, Bhashikara has given the two lines. I have given the meaning. Yes, sir, the clay ball is destroyed, but we do see the continuity of the clay. Now, here is a little small analysis, try to follow. When the pot is born, it destroys the clay ball. But what becomes the pot? You see, when pot is made, clay ball is destroyed. When the clay ball is destroyed, then what is the material for the pot? Clay. That means the creation of the clay ball has not destroyed clay. That is why it is still available for the next creation. If the clay were destroyed by the clay ball, then it would not have been available for the next creation. If the clay is available for the next creation pot, that means it is not destroyed by the clay ball. In fact, the moment the pot starts getting made, the clay ball is gone. And what is destroyed, how can it be the material for the pot? What is destroyed, how can it be the material for the pot? So after the destruction of the clay ball, there is something called clay, and that becomes the material. Clear? Sadrishyat anvaya darshanam na karana anuvritteriti chetna. Here is another Purvapakshis stand. There is a word called sadrishyam. Sadrishyam means similarity. Purvapakshi asks a question. Sadrishyat, due to similarity. Anuvritteriti chet. Sadrishyat anvaya darshanam. Due to similarity, you feel the continuity of clay. You have an illusion of continuity. You have an illusory idea about the continuity of the clay, not because it has continuity, but the clay of last second is similar to the clay of the present second. The clay at this second, it looks like the clay the previous second. According to Buddhists, the table is not the same. The table last second was a different table. The table at this second, the different. Well, it has the resemblance of the same table. It looks like the previous one. Every second it is a new one. Every second it is a new one. Every second it is a new one. It is not the same. Therefore, the pratyabhijna that it is the same table is an illusion. It is an illusion of continuity. Otherwise, there is nothing is continuous, because everything is new. Every second it is new. Every second it is new. Every second it is new, which is dismissed by Shankaracharya. That is a different matter. But what the Buddhists think, it is not the same table but similar table. Similarly, you have the illusion of continuity of the clay, not because the clay has continuous, but because the clay that was there before you began the creation of the pot was different clay, and the clay that is there in the pot is a different clay. You have an illusion of the continuity of the same thing, but otherwise there is no continuity. Buddhists' one of the strongest illusions they have is that things are not the same. They are ever new. When Vedanta says things are different, we mean they are the same thing but going through change. That is a different matter. It is the same thing but goes through change. That's a different matter. But they don't mean to say that they are the same thing going through change, but they are new. They are new. You don't have the same body. Last second the body is different from body. But how do you feel that it is the same body? Because of the similarity. Sameness they don't accept. Then what do they accept? Similarity. So yesterday you married somebody and today is a different person. He looks like him but he is not there. Hey Rama. All such illusions, they harbor. But a student of truth must dismiss all the illusions. Then alone you can enjoy the great study of the truth. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Ji, Hari Om Ji, Hari Om Ji, Hari Om Ji. Hari Om Ji. I am all right, thank you. Hari Om Ji.
After a few days, I come to meet you. My daughter-in-law is happy.
Okay.